Hi everyone, my name is Nina Melendez. I am the Virtual Content Specialist for Multilingual Learners and English Language Learners for Mathematics grades 9 through 12. Today we're going to be just looking a brief overview of our Algebra 1 Unit 7 Quadratic Equations, Day 1 through 4 lessons. So I'm going to just give a couple of key tips and things you can do with your multilingual learners to make sure that they are getting everything they need from these lessons. Specifically, I'm going to focus on lesson 3 and lesson 4 and give resources for those lessons. So I focus mostly on the introduction launch. I think in these lessons, many of them are very vocab heavy. Therefore, make sure you're focusing on the introduction launch portions of the lesson. Additionally, make sure that students understand what it means to notice and wonder. They've probably been seeing this throughout the year, but reiterate for them to delve a little bit deeper into these words so they can really flesh out the information. Have them review and understand what a function is, what an expression is, what an equation is, how to distinguish between a linear and a quadratic function, having them explain and having them find the intersection between the word explain and how showing their work can actually allow them to explain better. And as always, a good thing is highlighting key concepts for our multilingual learners to ensure that they are focused and are not like just skimming through those words. So day 1 starts with areas around areas. So the main idea here is what is important to pay attention to when writing a quadratic equation that represents area. What is important to pay attention to when writing a quadratic equation that represents area. So in this lesson, there's a lot of modeling going on. There's a lot of images provided. The words notice and wonder come up in this lesson as they come up in most launches. But having students now, since it's towards maybe the end of the marking period, end of the school year, have students really flesh out what does it mean to notice and wonder and to delve in deeper into these words. So they're going to be presented with a couple of things through these introduction and launches and a lot of visuals within this first lesson and lesson 2. So lesson 1 and lesson 2, you could use a lot of modeling, but it has a lot of visuals provided in them. The lesson from day 2, which is shown here, is finding unknown inputs. And we have what is important to pay attention to when writing a quadratic equation that represents area. So this lesson will also have a lot of imagery that the students can relate to. I would recommend that in some of these lessons, if you want to make the images bigger or have a slide, or whether you're using a pear deck or a Jamboard or different things where the students can really write on it and really flesh out the image. Specifically with this image, I know that when it comes to like the area around the frame and taking into consideration the picture, students might struggle with this. So having them just actually probably physically or virtually like measure it out, see the dimensions could really help for this type of problem. Now, in lesson 3, we are asked when and why do we write quadratic equations? What does solving a quadratic equation mean? So I focus on this lesson with students on the introduction launch portion of this lesson. So the introduction of this lesson asks, a group is asked to memorize a list of 20 words. And it goes on ahead to show a function and it asks students to really analyze this function. So as part of this lesson, I have provided key vocabulary words that the students might need during this lesson so that they can really understand how to work through it. So I would refresh with them the different forms of a quadratic because this is the unit right after to intro to quadratic. So to make sure that they have the different forms fresh in their mind. Then I would focus on what an equation and a function representation means. And also show them that we won't always be using X and Y, and that is fine because they already know the meaning of these words. They've already seen it in the context. So having them really understand that it doesn't matter if there's a different letter, they already know how to do this. And after they go through this, I would have them work on the launch. If you need an organizer for the launch, this organizer will be provided where students can notice and wonder by marking through and also looking at, oh, N equals what the x-axis represents, P equals what the y-axis represents. N, so we go ahead and focus on N is the positions of words on the list. P is the number who remembered that word. So making them really see, like, when I'm talking about this is what I mean. And then giving them sentence starters. I noticed that. I wonder if. And you can even go ahead and give them examples of this. We have a video for the students, for English language learners, where I give an example of what a noticing and what a wondering looks like. After this lesson, we will move on ahead to our day 4 lesson. Our day 4 lesson is also on the same topic as the previous lesson. That's why I gave resources for both of these. This lesson is very word heavy. This lesson is extremely vocabulary heavy. So make sure that you are either chunking down those words for our students just to make sure that they are not missing anything and they are really seeing what they need to focus on. Especially in our introduction launch, it's a good portion to do this because the rest of the lesson is also very word heavy. But if they get really used to doing this here, they'll repeat the pattern in the following slides. And it basically asks them to analyze this expression and to find how many tickets were bought based on the expression given. So one thing you could do is to give students an organizer, which I have provided. So I really stress the difference and the connection between explain and show. What does it mean to explain? What does it mean to show your work? And as a reminder, what a linear equation is, what a quadratic equation is, and how it's different from an expression, and how is it similar to an expression. So this is their launch. So I have placed their launch in a way that they can actually see how it is annotated, how it is highlighted, what are key things that I should be keeping in mind. And then as they go, they can see the first question. A family paid $62.50 for tickets. So that is highlighted in the same color as the cost of the tickets because that is the cost. So students are able to start making that connection and knowing where to place certain things so that then they are able to solve. So after they make these connections, then they would move ahead and be able to solve the equation. But they need to give an explanation. So the explanation would be the family bought, and since they have solved it, they should already know what number of tickets the family bought. So use whatever portion of this seems helpful, delete whatever you don't think your students might need, and keep whatever you think is beneficial for your students. I hope this is helpful and have a lovely week. Bye.